And as we go into the garden, we also have Dabney back in again this week. It's great to have you, Dabney.
Good morning. Good morning.
And the good news is for the gardeners is if they got a chance to plant, now things are really starting to work.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you know, and those an inch of rain you call for, so that's we don't have to worry about watering grass this week.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
I can save on your water bill a little.
And I gave my wife a reprieve. I told her she's going to have to water today if we didn't get rain. And of course, it's here so she can do her shopping or whatever. So leave the garden alone because we're getting plenty of moisture.
That's excellent. But some things to think about, though, and a lot of questions that we got in from viewers this morning on our Facebook page is one of them here from Mary Beth Dodd about tiny slugs are eating her strawberries. What do you do about that?
Well, that's part of there's several problems because of the rain, and that's one of them, slugs, because we have this damp weather. And they're nocturnal, so you don't see them unless you go out in the middle of the night. There are baits available that you can put down, and they're natural, so you don't have to worry about pets or children or anything. And definitely that's what you want to do is treat for that. Also, as far as a home remedy, you can do a saucer with beer and sink it level with the ground, and they will be attracted to the beer, and they fall in, they drown. But frankly, I think the bait's a little bit easier. Just lightly sprinkle that down and then do it, say, today. Then maybe towards the end of the week, if we get as much rain as you're calling for, then we'll do it another application.
Yeah, just set it and forget it. That's easy enough.
One thing, too, before we go to the others, talking about the rain, this is the time we're setting up for the condition where we're getting a lot of new growth, we're getting a lot of moisture. That's what causes a lot of leaf spots. We get leaf spot on hawthorn, roses, photinia, a lot of different plants. So we may want to, it's a good idea to spray as a preventative with an all-purpose fungicide, whether you use a chemical or a natural, because when we have this damp weather prolonging with the new growth, that's when many of these leaf spots enter the plant.
That's a good point. And going into the next question, this is from Carolyn, talking about is there such a thing as an organic weed killer?
Not a selective. Selective means it'll just kill the weeds without hurting plants. The only thing we can get a natural is going to be an all-purpose weed and grass killer. Now, there are natural preventatives. So, like now, people are asking, well, I've got these weeds, what do I do for them? Well, unfortunately, there's not much you can do. But remember, if you don't treat now, you're going to have another set of weeds in 1 or 2 months. So you can put a natural product down now to prevent those from coming up. And if you get into the cycle, do one in the spring. Corn gluten is the active ingredient, and different strengths, but many companies put out one where you have to do it once a season. You do one now to prevent the summer, then in the fall you do one to prevent so that next spring you won't see the weeds you're seeing now.
Okay, interesting. Now, one thing that's been going on our Facebook page, people have been kind of debating about putting down vinegar and using vinegar to kill weeds. What do you think about that? I'm in the garden center business, and I don't sell vinegar, so I haven't really tested that one. No problem. That's no problem at all. All right, we'll go on to the next question about hydrangeas. Now, this is Robin. She's saying that her hydrangeas are healthy and growing, but how could she encourage them to bloom?
Well, to encourage bloom, superphosphate, that's the middle number of your fertilizer, and you can buy superphosphate, bone meal, rock phosphate, any of these products with the high middle number, that's what's going to encourage blooming. In the case of hydrangeas, I don't know that it's quite as critical as it is, say, in lilac, peonies, rhododendron. Those plants do need that middle number. But many times what happens in hydrangeas is we cut them back too far in the spring. Hydrangeas are one of those plants that bloom on new growth off old wood, and if you prune back too heavily in the spring, or in the fall, then you don't get the blooms the next year.
Okay, and then a real quick question before we run out of time. Everyone's asking about planting tomatoes, collards. When can you do that?
All right, tomatoes, they're hot weather. Now's a perfect time. Collards is a fall crop, so you don't plant those. Leaf vegetables, generally, you plant in the fall or early spring. Now we're into the fruiting type things, squash, okra, this type thing. Okay. One thing on tomatoes quickly, too. Because we're having a late spring, it's a good idea to start spraying your tomatoes because a few years ago we had a wilt that got into them and it was carried by a thrip. And we're cutting the wheat fields late this year, so the thrip's going to be coming in the next couple of weeks. Okay. And he carries the disease for the wilt. So do dust to take care of the thrip so you don't get the disease.
Well, good information. All right, well, thanks again for coming in this morning,
pleasure.
Dabney. Appreciate it. We had a bunch of questions. Thanks for posting those. We'll have more news and also another weather update coming up right after this break.